been getting really antsy because I need to get out into the hoop house and screen out some soil for my next batch of soil mix for planting. And today's the second full day of spring, and after I dropped the kids off when I was driving home, it started to snow, and then it started to sleet, and now I think it's raining, and it's kind of one of those raw, miserable days. So my screen, unfortunately, my soil screen is inside the pig house, underneath a lot of other stuff. When I was cleaning up this fall, I kind of put everything in there, and it's all stacked nice and neat, and I was so proud of myself. And I'm glad that I got all that stuff put away, but now that I need something that's on the bottom of the pile, I'm wishing I had organized it a little differently, maybe thought ahead about what I was going to need while there was still snow on the ground. So I've been debating whether or not I was going to go outside in the rain and do this or wait until tomorrow, but I'm kind of getting like I need to get outside anyway, so I think I am going to get dressed up in some rain gear and go see what I can do to get that thing out. Alright, so the thing that I'm after is this table, which has a screen on top of it. And in order to get that out, I'm going to have to take all my neatly stacked trays out. I'm going to have to get these drying racks out of the way, which could be problematic because they might be frozen in. And yeah, it's raining, so I don't know, I'm out here. Unlike the drying racks behind it, I originally built this rack to protect potatoes from mice because I used to store potatoes in a barn from the time of harvest until it got too cold for them. I haven't used this in years, but like anything else, I just couldn't get rid of it. That turns out to be a good thing because I couldn't get my other drying racks out of the ice. In fact, this first one broke, and I'm going to have to fix it this spring. But it occurred to me as I was moving the potato rack that it's the same size mesh, 1/4 inch, as my soil screen, and it's already free from the pig house and ice. Well, it's just been converted. One of the best things about a hoop house is that once you get into it and close up the doors, it's a wonderful place to work on a raw, rainy day, even if there's a blizzard outside. The sound of the rain or snow on the plastic, as long as it's not too heavy a downpour, is nice music by which to work. It's warmer in here than outside, and there's no wind. When screening soil, I feel it's important to take it from the right places. I need the soil for my potting mix, but I don't want big holes in my gardens. In fact, I'm doing everything I can to increase the depth of the soil in the beds themselves. However, I spend a lot of time digging walking paths between my 30-inch beds. So, even though I normally turn that walking path soil up into the beds to make them raised beds, I'm digging there anyway. So that's a logical place from which to take the soil for screening. And I have to screen it because my soil is incredibly rocky, and in Maine, that's saying something. However, I'll put to good use the rocks that won't fit through the 1/4 inch screen. In fact, on some levels, I wish I could screen more of my soil, just so I could have all the little rocks for better drainage in specific places around the Nights and Weekends homestead. In reality, I wish I could have them without doing the work of screening, because it takes a while. But for the soil I have to screen anyway, at least I get a valuable side benefit. Right now, that beneficial drainage property these little shards and pebbles provide is needed right outside the door to my garden room, where melt from the nearby hillside has been collecting over the past few days of warm weather. And this rain isn't helping that issue. But now, I've got just the right solution. All the work that goes into screening soil makes it a valuable commodity, meaning I don't want to waste it. That results in two practices I maintain around here. First, I keep two separate batches of potting soil. The first, which I mixed the other day, contains no actual soil from the garden. The second, which I'm making here, has the screen soil mixed into it. I'll put them into separate containers and label them each with and without soil. The other practice involves how I use them. I use the soilless medium to germinate seeds. The mix with the soil is used when I pot on those seedlings. And that brings us to pricking out. Pricking out is a valuable skill because it saves space and soil mix, which essentially means saving time and money. If you have unlimited amounts of both, and you can buy all of the seed cell trays and pre-mixed potting soil you want, I encourage you to do so. After all, if you have no limitations, pricking out is not necessary. For me, money is definitely a consideration, but as the name Nights and Weekends Homestead implies, time is my biggest limiting factor. Filling seed cells takes time, and it takes a lot of soil mix. Consider the volume of soil it takes to fill a 72-cell tray, not to mention the time it takes to put the soil in, drop a seed or two onto each, press it into the mix, and then cover it. If I'm going to do all of that, I want a guarantee that every single cell has a plant in it. Otherwise, each of those actions associated with each cell is a waste of time. True, individual cells are negligible, but I'm planting thousands of seeds per year, and each one adds up. Contrast that with the way I've planted this lettuce and kale. I used old mushroom flats from the grocery store. It takes about 2 seconds to fill one of these, and since the seeds are sprinkled rather haphazardly across the top, it takes far less time to plant the same number of seeds than the delicate placement of a single seed in a cell. This eliminates wasted time and soil mix because you have to deal with germination rates. I've never met the variety yet that germinates at 100%, but with pricking out, you end up with 100% of your cells, or pots as the case may be, containing a plant. That way, you're only dedicating the time and planting medium if you know there's a plant in that space. There are a few keys to pricking out seedlings, some of them universal, others not so much. First, you need to have a dibbler. Nearly anything that will put a hole in the soil will work. I made this one from a dowel I had kicking around. I've also used pencils, pens, sticks I found on the ground. You can even buy dibblers and special pricking out tools if you want. It doesn't really matter as long as it can make the hole. Second, the planting medium needs to be just the right amount of moist. Too moist and it sticks to the dibbler. Too dry and the hole fills in as soon as you remove the dibbler. Actually, when it's really dry, the mix falls back into the hole even as you're making it. It doesn't take much, just enough water to prevent that. One thing I do that I've not seen anywhere else is drop the entire soil block with the plants into water. I don't think this is an original idea because it's so obvious. I've just never seen anyone on YouTube do it. That either means my sphere of YouTube subscriptions is too limited, or everyone is learning the same pricking out techniques and never experimenting, which I just don't believe. When I learned to prick out, I started the way I've seen everyone else do it, just pulling the tiny plants from the soil. However, while that does work, it immediately seemed like a lot of stress on the plant, particularly as it's pulled from the soil. That stress is sometimes relieved with a ripped cotyledon or, depending on how long you wait to prick out, true leaf, which is definitely not good for the plant. However, I quickly realized, quite accidentally I'm sure, when the soil is very wet, it slips right off the plant, often all the way down to bare root, which makes it quite easy to slip into the already dibbled hole. Also, since the roots are soaking in water while I'm pricking out their neighbors, that's extra moisture being pulled into the plant, which I think helps its transition as I plop it into a medium that isn't quite as wet. This, in turn, gives me a little leeway to finish the entire tray before watering in.